let some people know. All right, so we're just brainstorming 10 things you're doing on Twitter but shouldn't. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is those annoying automatic messages that you get whenever you're just followed somebody. Like I just followed somebody famous, or I just followed somebody with like 10,000 followers, and they send me a direct message that says like, "Hey, thanks for reaching out. You should totally check out my website or my blog." I think that's the most annoying thing, and turns people off.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you, I sometimes try to, answer those DMs, those automatic DMs, and nobody ever answers them anyway. So I think it's a waste of time, honestly.
Right. Now, if you did have it set up automatically and it wasn't so spammy, like, "Hi, first name Twitter, check out this," if they actually did something that was genuinely, they cared about, and then they replied to your message, like you were saying, then it would be nice. Exactly, Det Shepherd. Buffer does suck. This is open, so anybody who wants to jump in and talk, you can. So Det Shepherd, if you want to get on, you can definitely come on and talk with us. All right, so automatic DMs, number one. I think, yeah, that's the most frustrating thing for me and turns people off.
I've seen some that have an answer to them, but they say things or they ask questions like, "Hey, how's the weather over there? How's your day going today?" And they seem a little bit more genuine or engaging, but I still think they're, because they're still using like your Twitter handle name and stuff. So
right, and you can always tell at the bottom it's like used with Crowdfire or used with whatever. It's like, so we know you're not a real person. You're just literally trying to reach out as soon as possible. So it's just so spammy. Okay.
Number two, I think, I know a lot of people, well, a lot of the techniques out there is to make sure that you kind of post the same content different times of the day. But I would say to maybe switch it up a little bit, maybe, you can post the same or promote the same blog post, but maybe say something different every time you talk about it. Or maybe provide, a little bit of information every time you post about that same blog post. It could be something different within that blog post. So that way, some people that, using Twitter a lot, they don't see the same things over and over and over again.
Right. No, I agree completely. No, I was just curious now. I'm putting you on the spot. If you had any examples of that, have you seen that specifically, or just in general?
I've seen people post the same blog posts and things like that. A lot of like not telemarketers, but like people who are into social media marketing and stuff, who are trying to promote their stuff. They usually post the same thing in the morning and the afternoon, just because they want to hit different time zones and stuff like that. And I understand that, but at the same time, sometimes it gets too repetitive.
Right. No, I think that's true. They're just putting out so much content that they're never actually social, which I think is what I was gonna go with. Number three. That's a good segue. Is number three the most annoying thing, or something that people do when they're on Twitter, is they're told to like, "Hey, you need to tweet every hour, and every hour it should be your content," and just basically throw that stuff into somebody's face. And with Twitter, you can just scroll across. So if you're not using an image, or if you're not engaging with them, then you're just going to scroll through that anyway. But the fact that if you have somebody who you genuinely want to follow, or they're supposed to be like providing value for you instead of just selling you on their products and sending you so many tweets, it's annoying. I think it's really good for people who actually check the little box there that they get in a mention, and so somebody says, "Hey, what's going on?" or like, "Hey, can you help me with this?" Those types of tweets and responding tweets and retweeting the people who you're providing the value to, that actually opens up the social aspect of it, which is what nobody who says they're social media experts actually do. I mean, everybody and their dog puts social media expert or social media consulting on their Twitter feed, but then you look at their actual tweets and they are horrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all I do is just throw stuff out there in front of people for them to see. Which is that number 3?
Yeah, that was number 3.
Okay. Which is basically you're not engaging.
Right. It's a one-sided thing. It's not actually social. Debt Shepherd. Yeah, for sure. There you go. Hey, Greg.
Hey, thanks, gents.
How's it going?
Good, very good. I like the conversation, seriously.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Where are you coming from?
I live in Nashville, Tennessee.
Ah,
yeah.
Music City.
Yeah. Not a native, but Southern California native, kind of, but this is where I ended up. So.
Okay, cool. This is our only our second blab with these types of discussions. So we usually brainstorm 10 ideas every day. It's usually around small businesses and startups. So I guess I don't know if we're going to do this normally or not, but can you tell us a little bit about you or what's going on with something that you're doing?
I've been podcasting for about 3.5 years. I don't monetize it heavily. I get a little bit of coaching here and there, but not much. I have a regular day job, and I ran into Twitter probably 2008, 2009 when I took a break from my normal way that I make a living. And I was like, this is like microblogging. I just didn't really like it. So I did it for maybe a week and then I quit. 2 months ago, I found Blab, which I like because it's very close to podcasting. It adds video and you can repurpose the audio and the video in a bunch of different ways. So what I do is I come in and just hang, which is what I'm doing right now. But on Saturdays, I do a little 1 hour teaching, which is what I normally do on my podcast anyway. But what I'm finding is it's crazy because Blab is new, but I only talk to the Twitter piece. I've only done Twitter for like 2 months because to get into Blab, you have to go to Twitter. So I just sort of signed in. I'm like, I think I know what my password is, and it's what I pretty much use on everything. So they're like, okay, there you go. And I don't really like Twitter that much. And, Buffer is an efficiency tool. And I think what it does is it tells people, look, if you want to make some money, because normal people that talk to their normal friends don't care about Buffer. People that want to make money off of other people, they want to know about Buffer. So to me, Buffer is just an efficiency tool. And what it does is it lessens that level or the genuineness of the human contact. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a business, reaching out to people on a platform like this, and hooking up with those people. But you don't necessarily have to go, I'm going to scale this thing vertically until the wheels fall off of it, because this is my question to anyone listening, myself included, and I don't have this problem. What if you went on to Twitter or Blab or YouTube one day and said something so effing amazing that the next day 1 million people pounded into your inbox or bought your product? You probably couldn't handle the bandwidth and you probably couldn't fill the orders. So I'm like, that's really what you're thinking in your mind, most of us, but really, is that what you really want? Do you really have the ability to scale to that level? And I think the answer is no. So I like small. I like, let's just be real with a small group of people. This is just me, because I can't, I got 10,000 followers. If somebody tells me that, it doesn't mean anything to me. You can't personally know 10,000 people, because before the internet, it was not humanly possible to know 10,000 people. It's just not real. So I think technology is awesome and it's bitching and I love it. I mean, you see the microphone, I've been doing this shit I love stuff, but I do know this. A better microphone and better headphones and a better video camera is not going to make me money unless I really know how to talk to people and really connect with them in whatever way that is. I'm not saying I know how to do that, and just say, look, this is just what I do. And if I can somehow help you, that's fine. And if I get paid, that's cool too. And if I give you some advice and don't get paid, that's cool too. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that your philosophy plays over onto every social network or anything. It's just that for some reason, everyone has forgotten that it's called social media, or the fact that, just because you don't know that person doesn't mean that they're not a real person on the other side. And so you should engage with them, or at least have some kind of relationship with them. Or, I mean, you can't, like you said, you can't reach out to 10,000 people, but the one or two people that you do engage with, you can build a relationship with. And I think people forget that. They just throw out all their own content, and it just
one thing I don't do, and I already knew this before I bought a book that told me not to do this, but I just sort of wanted to check to see what this person had to say. I do not treat Twitter as my blog post or as my podcast page. I don't tweet out to people, this is my latest podcast post. Now I do that on Facebook out of habit. That's probably not a good idea, but let's say I have whatever it is on Twitter. It's not many. When I do a podcast, which is typically Saturday or Sunday, I don't post it to my Twitter page, because to me, if you follow me on Twitter, you either saw me saying something or doing something. You're like, that's decently interesting enough for me to just follow you. I hate it. I followed a guy not too long ago, and I immediately got pounded with emails by my system, by my shit. And I'm like, you know what? This is like 10 years old, and I'm 46 and I'm sick of that crap. And then you know what? I read his book because I wanted to know the technical aspect of what he did for a living, because I needed to know that as a financial person. It was about trading, day trading in sort of a sense. And I didn't know enough about it. His book was like $13. It was not a big deal. I bought it before I even talked to him. I bought it. I got about halfway through. I knew what I needed to know. And as soon as it got into the really heavy technical stuff, I was okay and I was done. I didn't need to know that. But I needed to just know some background for me personally, and for me to have a decent conversation with my listeners, even if it was a 30-second segment of one podcast, to know that. But I'm just getting pounded, and they're all automated emails, and I get it. And it's all about the funnel. And you know what a funnel is? It's a pyramid. It's an inverted pyramid. And you're just shoving the masses down through this tiny little hole, and you're hoping to make a buck off of them. And I have a friend who is 63 years old, and he's an old publisher. And he is so dead in his thinking that he still believes that he can buy an email list and make a bunch of money. And I'm like, dude, do you know how asleep you are? Do you know how asleep you really are right now? And he just doesn't get it. So anyway, sorry about the rant.
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah. I think I think I wrote down that actually we could use that for number 4, as far as like repurposing everything that you have and throwing it out on Twitter. Yeah. I think that's definitely something that you should not be doing on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about your food. Really don't care about your kids. If I come to you, Aaron, and I say, hey, Aaron, I bumped into you on so-and-so, and you do this for people, when I ask you to help me and I talk to you and maybe we have a phone call and I hire you, I don't really want to know about your personal life. You may show me some testimonials. You may say, hey, here's some people I've helped, and show me the body of your work, like if you're a photographer or a filmmaker or an IT person. I don't want to know about what kind of latte you like to drink. It's fluff. Solve my effing problem, and let's get it over with, and let's move on, So anyway.
All right. Sorry. Sorry, I was just typing number 4.
You're fine,
okay.
You're fine.
So, number 5. Twitter, but should not. I had a few of them in my head. I was thinking right before this happened.
Now, do you think they should be like, if you would like to, share those kind of things with friends and stuff, should you have a separate Twitter account for your business persona, or?
Are you asking Greg or Justin?
Either.
I've only done Twitter like in the last 2 months. I don't have a personal Twitter account. If you look at my Twitter account, it is @ and what you see on the screen. My YouTube is the same. My podcast is the same. Everything is totally connected and the same all the way across all social media. It's been that way. Now, I don't drive business. I do some coaching organically. That's fine, but I have a day job. But I did know from the beginning 3.5 years ago, if you're going to do this, this shit needs to match. It needs to be seamless, because people, I don't mean branding. You know, there's only a few brands like Coca-Cola and Marlboro and Apple. Those are ridiculous examples. But really, a guy like me, it's just let people know where you are. But I don't want to go, by the way, my website is debtshepherd.com, but my Twitter handle is @JoeHelpsYouGetOutOfDebt. I'm just like, come on, quit confusing people. Just glue it all together. And if you have to cancel a Twitter account, I don't want to lose my 500 followers. Really? Really? How connected are you really to that? Just so I get that. So anyway.
Yeah.
Just make it all the same. If you're going to do it, just make it all the same. Just make it all @joe.com, and everybody goes @joe.com. That's where I find you to fix my problems. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably number 5 right there. I mean, make sure that your Twitter handles match all
consistent.
Your social media.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, like Product Hunt is one that I was thinking of, actually. They have Product Hunt, then they break it down to which department it is, but they're all at Product Hunt Help, or all at Product Hunt, you know, New Tech or something, but it's all in line with what they are, and you can find them easily. All right, number 6. Staying consistent with your brand. I think another thing would be like excessive following. I have a bunch of people who, I mean, you want to stay away from being a spam account, and obviously the spam people are going to still be there, but there are people that would just excessively like your pictures, or, I mean, now it's like your tweets, so they've changed that, but they'll just like your tweets or retweet your tweet and then just constantly just blow up your feed, which is cool. Awesome. You're giving me engagement, but at the same time, depending on the user, it could really annoy them. Like, did you actually read my content, or are you just going through here blasting everything that I have?
Yeah. I talk about that. I've talked about that probably a couple of years ago somewhere in my podcast. And I'm like, you know, go through Facebook. Twitter has been big for a while, but I just didn't know about it until a couple of months ago. So that's fine. But I'm like, go through your Facebook account. If that's your main thing, clean out your friends list. I mean, I've done it. I could honestly say, I'm not talking about who's going to show up at my funeral when I die, because I really don't care, but we'd all like to go, who would really show up? So go into my Facebook thing and go, okay, I got 200 people in there. If I haven't talked to somebody in 6 months or a year, I don't care if they're old high school friends, just unfriend them. It's not ugly. It's not rude. They're not going to know. And really pare it down, in my opinion, to like 25 people. I mean, keep it tight. That's your personal page. Now your business, blow it up, do whatever. I get that. But I've spoken to this, and I'm glad you brought it up, Aaron. I tell people live while I'm doing a teaching on Blab and in my podcast, do not share this habitually. Do not tweet it habitually. And don't share it because you think you need to. Only share it if you think it's compelling enough that someone that you know will find it useful. I tell people that. And people are like, Greg, you're an idiot. If they share you with somebody, you have a chance to make $1. I don't give a damn about quantity. Yeah, I'd love to see the Benjamins rolling in. I'm not an altruistic person, or I'm going to hang on the cross and be a sacrificial here. Let's just get real. I want quality. I want low volume, high quality. Because if I have low volume and high quality, and I'm not saying it's the old marketing thing, charge more. All I'm telling you is I can focus on delivering something real to those people. And then whatever the price is, and it's not stupid crazy, they're not going to be like, well, gee, I don't know. I mean, last 2 people I coached at the end of the conversation, pre-coaching, they're like, how do I pay you? I can't do that every time. That's hard to do. And that was a change for me. Like, where's your thing where I can give you some money? And I've had people go, I need to wait a month. I need to save the money. Okay, fine. And my fees aren't huge. They're tiny. They really are. They're tiny. But I don't like this volume thing. And that's what the internet does. It's like it's this big promise of, oh, we can scale it. Okay, fine. If you're Apple, scale it. If you're Facebook, scale it. But that's not real. We're talking about Aaron and Christian here. This is real. It isn't Apple. It isn't HP. I mean, come on. You know, it's like, bring it down to reality, man.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it goes more down to, and I think Aaron and I, we talked about this a little bit. Instead of advertising for the masses and getting any client that you can, hone down to what clients do you really want.
Yeah.
And then target those people, and provide value to those people, the people that you actually do want to work for, not just any client or any person.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because it took me a while when I started teaching what it is that I teach. And it's like, okay, look, we all want business in the beginning. We put our plaque out. I would love you to come in. But here's the thing. Not everybody that shows up, is ready, willing, able, and motivated, or willing to pay your price. It doesn't matter if your price is the lowest in town or the highest. It doesn't really matter. So it's like, okay, who do I really want to work with? Here's my comfort zone. People that make around $45,000 to $85,000 a year. Now, some would go, wow, that's a lot of money. And some would go, and my banking job, my day job, that's actually low, because I deal with people that make way more than that. But I don't cross what I do in my spare time with that, because it's illegal to do that. But my comfort zone and my thing now is with Debt Shepherd is 45 to 85, because they're not so low that they're like, I'm just dead ass broke. And there's plenty in my range that are dead ass broke. They think they are, but they're not. But then if you go into a certain stratosphere of income, they're like, I make a lot of money. And I've been taught and bred to believe that I don't talk to a guy that makes 50 grand a year or less. I got to talk to somebody that makes 2 million to teach me how to get out of debt. And I'm like, that's okay. I'm not going to waste my time with you, because I've dealt with you for 15 years and you have helped me put bread on my table. But I understand that your psychology is different from what it is that I'm trying to bring to a specific group of people. So I stay away from those really high wage earners, because they're looking for a financial consultant. They're looking for a Payne Weber. They're looking for a Merrill Lynch, a guy with about 4 degrees after his name that they feel has been to an Ivy League that can tell them how to deal with their money. And I don't advise on investments. My thing is, stop going into debt. If we're not talking about investing, we're just talking about normal people with normal jobs fucking up and spending too much money and not really paying attention. So it's about focus, I think, is what I'm really trying to get at in all what I just said. Just be super specific. If I have a shotgun in front of me, and it's a 12 gauge, and by the way, I have one in my bedroom because I live in Tennessee. Gun rights are really cool here, right? It's an 870 Remington. I am not a hardcore constitutional person. It has a very short barrel, which means I have to be very, very close to my target when I pull the trigger. Now there's really heavy pellets in there. There's about 6 in there. Okay. So if I'm going to fire that thing, it needs to be at short range at a very specific target. I'm not aiming 50 yards out to spread the buckshot out, because if I do that, the energy is dissipated or lessened. And marketing and Twitter are no different. Get close to your target, which I don't like that word because it means hunting. Just get close to who you want to be to. And if you're going to fire your salvo, fire a direct burst directly at who you're aiming at. And if the energy reciprocates, then you move forward. That's why buffer sucks. Buffer sucks. I'm sorry.
Do you hate Hootsuite as well?
Do I what?
Do you hate Hootsuite as well?
I don't think I've heard of that before.
It's pretty much its arch nemesis.
Yeah. And it kills me. A lot of people on Blab are like, let's have a blab about why are we bored about Blab? I'm like, really, it's been about 6 months. It's still in beta and you're whining because you're not being entertained. I don't want to hear it.
I haven't seen that yet. That's funny.
It's out there. Trust me. So,
man.
Interesting. People are just like, wah, wah, wah. I'm like, come on, man. Just,
All right. I think we're on number 8 here. So I put it on here, actually. I took one of yours, Greg, and I honed it down to getting close to your market and finding the right customers, and that your customer's not for everyone. So stop blasting stuff to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to be just kind of specific, I do a 1-hour teaching on Saturdays. I'm not going to plug it. Obviously, that's not what we're talking about, but I open up the mic and I hang out for 10 or 15 minutes. Sometimes people don't show up. Yeah, I tell people who have followed me on Blab or Twitter, that's fine. The room doesn't get flooded, right? 2 or 3 people show up. If 2 people come in, I start recording. And then I do an intro. This is what we're going to talk about. This is what you can expect. Bam, 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 bam. We do 1 hour teaching, and I honor that 1 hour. I keep it at I don't go rarely over an hour, and then I'm done. And then once we're done, I've recorded my little thing that I'm going to stick on YouTube or whatever. And then it's just open forum. It's open forum during the teaching, but it's open forum after I stop recording on Blab. And I'm like, the sky's the limit, man, whatever. And they don't have to be asking me questions. We can just talk about, I don't really care what we talk about. It could be anything. So it's a great platform, you guys. I'm glad you found it. It can get a little nauseating because people pop in, and the second they pop in, what are we talking about? Can you read in the top left corner, you lazy rat? That's the topic. So, and by the way, I know I'm assuming you guys are pretty tech savvy. You can block people. You can kick them out. You can lock the video seats. You can make it just you and Christian and no one else can come in. And you can just moderate the chat room all day long if you want to, or you can ignore those people and go, this is a discussion only for whatever, and we're not answering any questions, and you just do your thing, man.
Yeah, that's what we're still trying to figure out, actually. So, I mean, like I said, this is only episode 2.
Okay. As long as you tell people what you're doing up front, and they'll just get over them damn selves in the chat room because they're kind of addicted to me. And, I've seen Blabs with 50 people listening, and the chat room is running at about 200 miles an hour, and there's no way you can keep up with that.
Yeah.
They're actually talking to the other people in the chat. They're not talking to the people that are actually conversing on the video screen. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. This is what happens. We get to like 8 or 9, which is when the real test comes in. You got to think a little bit harder as far as what are people doing wrong on Twitter. Which there's a lot of stuff just like hard to come in.
Actually, I like a Blab that has silence in it because most people can't fucking handle that. They just get unnerved. And it's okay if it's quiet for a little while. It's okay.
Yeah, definitely going to have a quiet spot for sure.
It's like you're in the coffee shop and you're having a comment. You're like, or whatever.
Let's see. What about hashtags? What do you think people are doing wrong with hashtags?
Oh, man. So I just try to... you should use hashtags. That's how you become discovered. But at the same time, anything more than 2 or 3 is just obnoxious. People that end up sending out a whole tweet that is literally just hashtags is way too much. I don't think you see that as much anymore, but they're also not... I don't know. Sometimes it's okay to be like playful with the text and say something that's completely not discoverable, but you should also have ones that if you are trying to be seen, honing it down to what you're saying, to what you're doing. So like, our conversation right now, if we were to tweet about it or talk about it or anything, we would do like, small business or discussions or something like that instead of, just a million hashtags of like Aaron, hashtag, Christian, hashtag, Greg, hashtag. I think that is it's used more for older people, or that sounds bad. Okay. Inexperienced people with Twitter than it is with people who understand Twitter more, even the people who don't know it as well as what we're talking about that are doing those things wrong. But like I see people that come onto Twitter, don't know Twitter, and they say, oh, what I'm supposed to use a hashtag, so I'm just going to use them like crazy. I see that more than I do people who are, just everyday users on Twitter. They don't do it that much.
See, I think my thing with hashtags is I rarely search anything on Twitter, I know you said something about, people finding you through hashtags. But I think when you use hashtags, it would have to be something. And I've seen some people use it for branding purposes. So not just, for example, like Coca-Cola, instead of just saying Coca-Cola, I've seen people, make up like a community around a certain hashtag. So whenever someone's talking about your product or your persona, you're using that hashtag so you can find them. So I think for certain things like contests and events and stuff like that, I think it would be good to use hashtags. But I mean, if you're talking about, pizza, I think it's useless to put hashtag pizza, hashtag pizzeria, hashtag pepperoni. I think that's my thing with hashtags. It's how they're using it, and how does it provide value to them.
Right. I think there's a difference really between B2B and B2C. So from a B2B, when I've done social media for customers, I've looked and I've searched not just for keywords, but I've also searched like for phrases like, if I work for a vacation company, I'm going to search for somebody saying, I need a vacation or can't wait to go on this vacation, because those are the people you want to jump into a conversation with. And so you can use hashtags for that. But if it's B2C, I don't think people, like you're saying, the consumers are not going to go and actively search for that conversation. They're not on Twitter for that. They're on there for themselves.
Yeah.
But B2B, that's how a lot of people can jump into that conversation. And Twitter allows you to search those keywords without hashtags either. So I think another way you could use it is, I don't know if Google's algorithm picks that up now or not, but using that hashtag, like, for example, Coca-Cola, since that's what we've been using, like hashtag Coca-Cola, if that comes onto a search engine for some reason, somebody goes 5 pages in, they may find the Coca-Cola hashtag being used in the conversation.
I think if I was going to add anything to 10 things I would not do on Twitter, one would be to falsely assume that the people who have followed me want to know every single thing that I'm doing all throughout the day. And I don't mean everything, but I mean silly things. Heading to a seminar. Love this speaker. I'm going to go deep and take my clothes off and we're going to wade through hot coals. You know what? That's a cool thing. I don't want to know that if I followed you on Twitter. Send me something meaningful. I don't really like to quote famous people, but of course, Gary Vaynerchuk must come to mind as we all talk about Twitter because he says it, and that's cool. I've read a couple of his books and I'm not taking anything away from him. He's a good guy. And he's like, the biggest mistake people make is treating Twitter as their blog. And I sort of knew that before I bought his book, Jab, 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 Right Hook. But I'm like, I got to see him say it. And I don't mean validate my genius. I'm just like, I want to know what he has to say about it. And I read the entire section on Twitter and glanced through a few others. And I'm like, Instagram, don't do it. Periscope, don't care about it. It's okay. Doesn't mean it's not valid. But I'm like, okay, he's got a multi-million-dollar empire or whatever. And he credits part of his career to Twitter. So he must know something about it. I'm going to go there and read it. I don't treat Twitter like a blog post. And, I'm not sitting here on my phone going, heading into the bank to close my checking account because these bastards are evil and they're all part of the conspiracy. Now, I've had conspiracy conversations on my podcast before, but they were asides from what I was teaching. People don't want to hear that. They're like, Greg, you told me you were going to tell me how to get my shit cleaned up, get my mind straightened out and quit paying debt and get out of debt slavery. You don't want to know about all that other stuff. But see, the ego comes in and goes, oh yeah, sure they do. Or someone else told you this is how you should use Twitter. And what I would say to you is this: vet those people who are telling you how to use Twitter. I want to know how much success you've had directly based on your Twitter use. Now, that's hard to gauge, but when somebody comes to me and they go, teach me how to do this and that and the other, this is what they don't ask. What's your credit score? How much money do you make? How much debt do you have or not have? When's the last time you borrowed money? I mean, that's directly related to what I teach. No one asks that. Now, I freely give that information periodically in my teaching, not as a shock effect, but to tell people, look, you're not asking these questions when you're on social media and you just assume that Aaron or Christian or Greg is a guru. You need to ask direct questions. And if somebody gets uncomfortable when you ask it, head out the door, man. Just go. I mean, it's that simple.
No, I think that's good. Hi, Friar Wade. Thanks for joining us. All right. We are on number 10 right now. So, finishing up 10 things you should not be doing on Twitter. I think that was a great one that Greg just pointed out, though. I do see a lot of people telling us about, hey, headed to Starbucks. Awesome. Thanks for telling us.
Twitter is not reality TV, people. Stop it. Now, if there's 10 people on my Twitter account, right? I follow 10, 10 follow me. Show me your genitals, show me your dog. I don't care. But if you're trying to grow something beyond your personal thing, and I'm talking about business Twitter, I don't want to know all that stuff. I think that's the biggest problem, Aaron, is people open up a Twitter account and then maybe it's their personal Twitter account for a year and they go, I'm going to start a business. And they don't separate the personal from the business. And they just spew all the personal in there and they assume. It's like, wow, really? Do I want to know what the CEO of the company that I work for does in her spare time? I don't care. She's a great person. She supports me. She gives me what I need to do the job that I need to do to help the company make money. But I don't want to know where her daughter goes to school, what she eats. I don't want to know any of those things because they're irrelevant to me. Well, Greg, you're not being a human being. Really? I was a human being the day I showed up. I'm automatically qualified as a human being. I don't need to prove that to you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think if you do own a business, you should change your persona online. Not just be everybody's friend.
I don't post when I do a podcast. That is we'll call it a business. It's my handle that you see. I do not post that on my personal Facebook page. I post it on my business Facebook page. I post it to my podcast, which is my business. I post it to YouTube, which is my business. I don't post my business to my personal because the people that know me personally, they may have subscribed to my business page. They don't want to hear that shit every single week. They don't want to hear it. Now, if, hey, my wife and I, we had a baby. Okay, fine. My dog had puppies. If you're my personal friend, you might be interested in that. I don't know. Probably not going to tell you that anyway, even if it did happen, if you're on my personal page. But your business people, they don't want to hear that stuff. Well, Greg, I'm supposed to be human. I get that. Be human when you're talking to them either personally on the phone, directly in email, or having a podcast or a video conversation like we're having right now where they can see you and look in your eye. Other than that, I don't want to see that stuff in text.
Right.
It doesn't make me want to gravitate towards you or spend my money in your direction any more than anybody else. Because we all do lattes and $200 sneakers and divorce and all these other things. So I'm sorry, guys. I'm just like talking way too much.
No.
Oh, sorry. Cut out. My internet was messing up. All right. Everybody still there? Sorry.
It's a good group. Yep. 6 people for your third blab. This is a good group. It is.
Yeah. I think they're mainly, yeah, that's not bad.
Definitely.
I don't know what's good, but yeah.
To me, if one shows up, it's good.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, our first blab was what we had 2 people come in there, and they lasted probably 20 or 30 seconds. But
hey, that's better than nothing, man.
Yeah. So we'll get it going better.
Yeah. And it's Thanksgiving Eve, so don't be hard on yourselves.
Right. There's pretty much everybody's out traveling right now. It's 4 o'clock. They're getting off work and traveling.
Yeah, it's all good.
I think another thing for at least a business anyway is that there's always something going on with the media, like controversy or political stance or the way that you think about one thing. And if it doesn't relate to your business, then you shouldn't be talking to it. I feel like it should be more of a professional level in the sense that you're talking about the business. If it pertains to the business, great. But if you support one candidate or the other, it really shouldn't come in a conversation, or at least on the business page. If it's your personal page, sure, like you're saying, that's completely fine. But like controversial statements, just as a blast anyway, I think could be taken wrong just because you don't believe something is another person.
Yeah. My biggest lesson I had to learn when podcasting is because of the genre in which I teach, which is money. It's deeply connected to politics. There is no doubt about it. I know that without a shred of doubt. And I talked about, I don't mean Republican, Democrat. I just mean like the deep, ugly stuff, because I've been studying that stuff for like 15 years. It doesn't matter. People don't come to listen to that unless the title of mine was The Ugly Truth. I mean, you can go conspiracy, whatever. Mine is practical, money, whatever. But I was putting in my opinions, and I'm like, I've got to stop doing that and throttle it down because people don't want to see that. They really don't. At least on a podcast or a blog. I know Twitter's a little different. It's more like, hey, check this out, hey, and that's typically what I see is, hey, look at this, whether it's something they're sharing or their own thing, which is fine. I think Twitter's more about sharing than it is about, I don't ever see this on my Twitter feed. What do you think about the Obama? Nobody talks about that. It's more like, I'm sharing this with you, or come check out my stuff. Is that accurate? Because I'm only like 2 months into this whole thing. So,
I think that's definitely it. People want to be entertained. Right now anyway, Facebook, at least on my feed, is more of a news feed, literal news than it is anything else. But I think people just want to be entertained more than anything, especially with our attention spans shrinking by the minute.
I think that's the biggest danger that we all face.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that gets us to 10, but I like your idea of conversations. So I'll stop the recording right now.